jobs added last month. As you mentioned, that's roughly twice what people were expecting. But not only that, this is 80,000 jobs more than the most optimistic forecaster had been penciling in. That is pretty incredible. And this is an acceleration from August, which, by the way, was also revised higher. If you look at the chart, you can see that in some ways this jobs market apparently is actually heating up at a time when a lot of people thought it was cooling down. And so from the perspective of these fears of an imminent or ongoing recession, clearly that is not something that's happening right now. There's nothing about these numbers that speak to an imminent recession. But of course, the other big concern out there is inflation and the Fed's war on inflation. And so if your big fear is that the Fed is going to end up overdoing it, or that the bond market is going to tighten things for the Fed and overdo it, those fears are still very much alive because of today's number. A lot of people were hoping for Goldilocks, not too hot, not too cold. We ended up getting something that was much closer to too hot. And that is why we've seen a negative reaction in the stock market, with U.S. stocks opening, I would say, modestly lower. But there is the potential that if bond yields keep going higher today and in the coming days, we could see an even more negative reaction in the stock market. Becky?
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? And one of the world's sort of top bankers, Jamie Dimon, has been talking about his concerns about the possibility of the Fed pushing rates high, not being at the end of its rate rising cycle. And that really does beg the question, has the central bank got this sort of landing, in hand? Is it a soft or is it a hard landing? And there's a real difference between the two, and the impact could be very swinging. Oil prices, when we talk about inflation, the good news this week is that we've seen a slowdown, a slip in the price of oil. We had been looking, only a week ago at the possibility of $100 on the barrel, down closer to the sort of $80 on the barrel level at this point. Why?
Well, Becky, that's been just a huge turnaround. I mean, you know better than anyone that the oil market is notoriously boom to bust. But even for the oil market, this is a completely incredible 180, because just a week ago or so, we saw U.S. oil and there's Brent on the chart. You can see going up towards $100 a barrel. That was setting off all kind of alarm bells in Washington and in Wall Street about inflation, about gasoline prices, and they have completely cratered since then. As far as why, there's a sense that the bullish sentiment got overdone, right? That prices got ahead of fundamentals, which is known to happen from time to time in financial markets, especially in energy markets. Hedge funds were kind of piling on, and eventually they ran out of buyers, and the fundamentals just did not support triple-digit oil, despite the fact that we have Saudi Arabia and Russia doing basically everything they can to pump up oil prices. That strategy had been working, and right now it's not working so much. But from the perspective of consumers here in the United States and really around the world, this is very good news, because it means that retail energy prices, gasoline prices can cool down. I talked to a veteran energy analyst here in the U.S., Tom Closa, and he told me he thinks that gasoline prices in the U.S. are going to go towards $3.25 a gallon by the end of the month. That's down from around $3.75 right now. So that would be huge. And the oil price drop, Becky, is also very important from the perspective of central bankers, because it helps them in their fight to get inflation under control.